What's going on, everyone? So we got reports yesterday that Pascal Siakam and the Toronto Raptors are very likely heading for a separation, that it is expected that he will be traded by the trade deadline. We now have the Sacramento Kings that have removed themselves from the discussions, from the conversations. Supposedly, he said that he won't resign. Now, there are reports that came out a while ago that Pascal Siakam very likely isn't going to re-sign anywhere he gets traded to, simply on the fact that he would make more money in the open market and he wants to hit free agency, try to capitalize on as much money as he could get. So any team that looks to trade for Pascal Siakam is taking a huge risk. Now, there is always the possibility that he changes his mind or he gets to a spot where he really likes it, or plays out the year and he goes, you know what, like, hey, I want to see this through, like what if he goes to a team and they make the conference finals or something and he's like, man, if I stick here, like, what can we do if we have a full season under our belts? Things change, people change, minds change. But it is a risk for any team that is interested in Pascal Siakam because he could just leave in free agency. The other thing is just because he becomes a free agent doesn't mean he leaves, because what other teams are going to have the money to go sign him, right? Is he going to want to go to some tanking team? Is he going to want to go to like a Detroit or something, right? That is just like, okay, yeah, I could go make an extra $10 million a year, but I'm going to be terrible during this whole contract, right? Or is he going to want to go to a team where it's like, okay, I can make, maybe not as much as I'm making on the open market, but at least I'm in a winning situation because he's going to be 30 and he's going to be, he's going to want to compete and not go game in and game out. And it's like, all right, well, here's win 5 out of 30 so far, right? Like, it's not a position you want to be in. But with Sacramento removing themselves from any Pascal Siakam trade, where is he going to go, right? Now, obviously, there's several teams that are rumored, talked about. I want to kind of go over those teams. There's always the likelihood of like that left field team that no one's talking about, that no one thinks of, right? I mean, we saw that with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was headed to the Knicks. Knicks were ready to get him. It was all but set in stone. And then, boom, here come the Cleveland Cavaliers. Or you saw last season with Damian Lillard. He's going to Miami. It's a lock. Basically set in stone, and then boom, now he's on the Milwaukee Bucks. But I want to dive into, and of course, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. But diving into the Indiana Pacers. Indiana is supposedly the front runner to land Pascal Siakam. Indiana definitely could use Pascal Siakam. They are credible on the offensive side of things. Defensively, they're not too great. It would be nice to have a guy like a Pascal Siakam that can defend multiple positions, defend the best player on the other team, also provide some secondary playmaking alongside Tyrese Halliburton, who has been ridiculous this year. He's averaging like 12, 13 assists this year. Guy's been unbelievable. But what are they willing to give up? Now, they have Buddy Hield's expiring contract, so that's good. My guess is that they include Buddy Hield in probably any deal for a Pascal Siakam. But then beyond that, what else are they trading? What else are they giving up, right? Because the Toronto Raptors, they don't necessarily want draft picks. They want to get players more than anything, right? Obviously, they're fine with a draft pick or whatever, but they're looking for guys that can help them still be competitive, and they want to more retool rather than rebuild. So question is like, outside of Mathurin, who else would they want? Like, who would Toronto be looking at and go, oh, that's the guy, right? Because like, they're not going to trade Miles Turner, right? And would Toronto even really want Miles Turner? Not just that, but Miles Turner, like, yeah, you'd have him for basically a year, but then you got to trade him again. They're not going to want somebody like a TJ McCollum. Maybe you get a Neesmith, right? But again, like, outside of that, it's like, who are they getting that's like, okay, that's the guy? Like, that's my real question with the Indiana Pacers. I don't know who the Indiana Pacers would be willing to trade and give up that would also make sense for Toronto. If Toronto was like full rebuild, like, hey, we want as many draft picks as possible, then I think Indiana definitely could be in the conversation because they could trade several draft picks. But as far as players go, Are the Indiana Pacers really going to trade Mathurin for Pascal Siakam, right? I mean, I wouldn't hate the idea if I'm the Pacers, right? Because, yeah, I think you do have, I think Pascal Siakam would make them better, but look, Mathurin's been really good for them. And it's kind of looking like he's starting to emerge into that role. And, last thing you want to do is get rid of him, and he kind of blossoms into like this star or whatever. And you're like, man, like we could have had him still. So that's kind of where things are interesting. But we will see. Again, they seem to be the front runners for Pascal Siakam. Next up, the Golden State Warriors. Now, I actually, if I'm the Toronto Raptors, I really like the idea of a Golden State Warriors trade. Just because I think if you can get Jonathan Kuminga, that would be fantastic for them, right? Because then you would have Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Jonathan Kuminga. Well, you probably play Kuminga at the 4 and then have Scotty Barnes at the 3 or vice versa. But basically you have those 4, and then you'd have Jakob Poeltl, but you could always look to maybe go get a younger center, maybe use Jakob Poeltl to go make a trade, maybe develop Koloko for another year. But I really like the idea from a Toronto situation of can you get Kuminga and maybe even Moody, right? Could you get Kuminga and Moody and take on Chris Paul's contract, buy Chris Paul out, and then now you got 2 young guys that could be very good for now and the future. That to me seems like the type of move that the Toronto Raptors are trying to make, right? Let's go get guys that have a ton of upside, could be very talented, can help us win now, but could grow organically with this team. And now we're off to the races in 3 years, right? That's kind of the idea. And I think if you get a Moody or a Kuminga, that would be a great way to do it, right? And I mean, you could even run some small ball lineups if you wanted to with that, and run basically Quickly, Moody, Kuminga, Barnes, and and RJ Barrett, and just go with Kuminga at the 5 or whatever, just in small ball sets. But regardless, I think one makes a lot of sense for the Warriors. Also, if I was the Warriors, I would try to get a Jakob Poeltl. I think going and getting Poeltl would make a lot of sense. Also give you that center. And they supposedly want a skillful 7-foot center. They want a shooting 7-foot center. But again, you get Siakam, Poeltl, Draymond, Steph, and Clay. Pretty good starting 5. But I really would look to the Warriors, right? If you can pry Jonathan Kuminga from the Golden State Warriors, I think you do it. I really do. I think that might be one of the best options for them, just because even just natural fit with your current roster, right? Because again, you're looking at, okay, we have Emmanuel Quickley, we have RJ Barrett. There's our 1 and our 2. We have Scotty Barnes that is capable of playing the 3 or the 4, right? So we either need a young center or that other wing position. And if you could get that other wing position in a Kuminga, well, then there's that. And then now you're just looking at some point, whether it's through the draft or, you make a trade at some point, or maybe Koloko evolves into that, whatever. Now you're in a position to where, okay, you got your core 5, and now you're, again, like I said, off to the races in the next few years. So I really like Golden State as a trade partner for the Toronto Raptors. And look, I'm not a Raptor fan nor a Warrior fan, so I don't have a dog in the fight. I just think of if I was the Warriors, you definitely could use Pascal Siakam. He makes a lot of sense for them. From the Raptor standpoint, Jonathan Kuminga makes a lot of sense for them and kind of fits what they're trying to do. But the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Dallas really, apparently, based on reports, are a team that thinks that Pascal Siakam could be the difference maker. I don't really understand that. Problem is, Luka is one of the most highest usage players we have ever seen. And then Kyrie still needs the ball. Pascal Siakam is a guy that needs the ball, right? He could be a secondary playmaker for him, but you got Luka and Kyrie. Defensively, that would be great. That would make sense because you could have him defend the best player on the other team. So rebound, like I said, secondary playmake. There's some good things there, but he can't shoot, right? Like Pascal Siakam's 29% on 3 points this season. So is he going to even fit their offensive style? And does he kind of become neutralized because of Luka and Kyrie? It's a genuine question. Also, like, what are they going to give up? They don't have a ton of assets and players, right? They could give up, I don't even know, like a Jaden Hardy, right? Maybe like a Josh Green. Because you just think of the players that are on their roster. They're not going to trade Derek Lively, right? They're not going to want like a Tim Hardaway Jr., right? You probably have to include him for salaries, but they're not going to want somebody like that. So you're talking about young guys, Jaden Hardy, Josh Green, Prosper. Outside of that, it's like, what else could Dallas give up that makes sense for the Toronto Raptors? I don't really know. Jaden Hardy and Josh Green have been good for them. Prosper, he's a guy that could make sense for Toronto. Now he's young. He's 21, right? He's 6'7" forward. So he could be somebody that maybe makes sense. I don't really see Dallas making it happen. Maybe. You never know. Never say never. But one, I question fit. And two, I question just the return that Dallas could provide. That's the other thing, right? I don't know if they would be able to provide an enticing enough package to where Toronto goes, yeah, that's it. That's the move we want to make. But again, you never know. Then there's always, like I mentioned, the out of left field team. Do the Knicks. Supposedly the Knicks are interested in trading Julius Randle, right? So if they could find a trade partner for Julius Randle, do they maybe go try to get Pascal Siakam? They just traded for OG Anunoby, right? So I don't know. That could be pretty interesting, right? The Knicks still have draft picks. They still have other pieces. They could go like a McBride. I know that they just give Grimes an extension, so I don't think they could trade him. They have Evan Fournier's contract, so you got to imagine you're going to try to unload that at some point. Do you give up like a Jericho Sims, a McBride, throw in Evan Fournier's contract? Maybe you give up Mitchell Robinson, right? A lot of teams are calling for Mitchell Robinson. Maybe it's like a 3-team deal, right? Maybe Julius Randle's going to one place. Siakam's going to the Knicks, and then whatever from that package is going to the Toronto Raptors, right? Maybe you can find a team that throw in some picks or something, or a player that's intriguing, something along those lines. A starting five of, Jalen Brunson, right? You could go Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and then if you keep Mitchell Robinson when he returns, you go Mitchell Robinson. Otherwise, Hartenstein. Pretty good, right? You got good depth, versatility. You got sizable wings, right? You got that playmaking forward in Siakam, right? That kind of point forward, so he can kind of fill that role of a Julius Randle. You got 2 wing defenders that can defend, so you'd be better defensively, right? Kind of make up for the lack of Jalen Brunson. I don't hate the idea of the Knicks revisiting Toronto and just being like, hey, what would it take for us to get Siakam, right? Again, they have a treasure chest full of stuff, so it would make sense. I know that they're looking at a DeJounte Murray. There's always the Donovan Mitchell aspect of that. But I don't hate the idea of the Knicks at least making a call. And then again, it's just, is there another team that comes out of left field? But my thing is who is that team? right? Like you look at the East and it's like the Sixers maybe, but I don't know if Pascal makes a ton of sense for them, right? I mean, I guess as like your point forward, right? So you could run your offense through him, right? And kind of have like Maxi focus more on just being a scorer, right? So Sixers are a team that kind of makes sense to me in a lot of ways. I don't see the Cavs, the Heat. I don't think that they'll go make a push for him. The Magic, maybe. Could they be a team that kind of comes out of left field and just goes, hey, let's go get Siakam and kind of add some veteran, some leadership. Thing is, too, is again, it's just like, it's got to be a place where he's going to want to go, right? So, like, you look at a team, let's say like Orlando would be interested in something like that, right? Does he want to stay in Orlando? Because he's probably not going to want to go to a bad team. And then, like, you look west, it's like, okay, like Sacramento, they pulled out, so there goes Sacramento. I don't see the Thunder making a move for that. The Pelicans, maybe, right? But, like, what are they going to give up? And then everyone else is bad except for, like, the Warriors. So, I don't. But at the same time, you never see that, like, out of left field team until it happens, right? But I just look through the East and the West, and I'm just like, I don't see anybody that, like, the teams that are interested in him are the teams that make sense. And I just don't see another team. Like, Detroit is supposedly wants, like, DeJounte Murray and Siakam and stuff like that. I just don't see that making sense. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Where do you think Pascal Siakam lands? Where would you like to see him go? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.